Welcome to the String Theory of the Unexplained. I'm your host, John Ventry. Our co-host is Fred Saluga from West Virginia. And our returning guest is Rhonda Vary. There's a chapter in here that talks about the Vatican, astronomers, Lucifer, all of that, the observatories. But in 1957, Father Connolly, in 2001, Father Balducci, 2008, Father Funes said Space Brothers would be part of creation and may not have fallen from grace. It doesn't contradict faith. Both the alien and man will learn and change from each other when there's contact. Well, I'm sure everything will change if aliens are aliens, and they're not demons in disguise. 1999, Malachi Martin, the Jesuit exorcist, right?
Right.
He talked about the two Vatican observatories in Rome and Arizona.
Right.
And he said that the Vatican, the Pope, they know what's approaching from space, and it's coming from the north. And both Martin and Gabriel Amorth, the chief exorcist of the Vatican, where Martin was a Jesuit, right, said that the devil has invaded the Vatican. Catholic News said the smoke of Satan is in the Vatican. In 2008, the Vatican holds a conference called The Origin of Species to reconsider evolution and misconstrued creation dogma and become more mainstream liberal. That is just incredible that instead of sticking to the word of the Bible, they said, well, we got to say something that's more acceptable to get members, which is what's happening. A renunciation of faith could soon come after confirmation of what space aliens say. Christ may not be the only word spoken in the universe. The Vatican has become very liberal in its beliefs to attract followers. And in John 14 it says, greater is he that is in me
than he that is in the world.
And that was the first time I heard that was from you when I had something in this house.
Yeah,
that nothing can harm you if you believe in Jesus.
That's right.
Only spiritually they can't harm you. So then they talk about ancient aliens, right? And I told you, I've said this before, I had my encounter with Van Daniken in 2012 at the first Ancient Alien Conference. I asked about Jesus and he exploded. Jesus was just a man. He pounded the table. He is not the Son of God. That guy has an agenda. And I'm telling you, he's going to be in the same, he's going to be at the Last Supper there sitting with Hitler, Genghis Khan, all of those people. Van Daniken, there's no doubt in my mind, has sold his soul. There's no doubt in my mind about that, right? So they talk about, and I say that because I met him.
Well, Jesus
and what he said.
If you deny me, I will deny you.
Yep. So they talk about ancient alien theorists, right? And what they believe is that we've been genetically upgraded our DNA or created us. The Egyptian gods were all genetic experiments. Human body, bird head, animal head. Those things were real. 8 feet tall, walking around. That's crowd control, right? You see that thing come out? Boom. That's what it was. Those were real creatures that they created.
It's possible.
But they were created by demons. They weren't created by aliens. Van Daniken's the father of ancient alien theory. Somewhere else I read that he actually didn't say any of that. All of that, he said it, but it was originally somebody else used all that terminology and he copied it, But it's a retelling of the Watchers, which we just talked about, right? Those 200.
Right.
And the hybrid Nephilim demigods, which are also aliens, which aliens are them, is what it is. They've taken heaven, right, and angels and turned them into spaceships and aliens. All they did was take it and flip it and call it something else, but use the storyline. Did you ever hear of the book of Jasher?
Yes.
Jasher. Again, when I see my mother on the other side, I ask her, how come you never taught me any of these things? She went to church every Sunday.
Well, it's not in the scripture.
Didn't take me.
It's not in
She
the
didn't
Bible.
take me.
She knew better.
She knew better, right?
It might have been one of those books that they didn't put in the scriptures.
It's in Samuel and Joshua. I don't know if are those books in the Bible. Then it's mentioned. The book of Jack.
Yeah,
it's
they're in the
mentioned.
Bible, but it might be mentioned, but that book is not included.
What it does is it describes the whole fall of the Watchers. They provoked God by mating with women, which was a cardinal sin, a God sin, right? So it talks about how they fell, right? It says that angels can leave their first estate and enter our third estate or 3D
Yeah.
reality, and
Right.
they're fully functional. As
Yeah.
angels, they can't reproduce, they're spiritual.
Mhm.
I've read that, they don't have any genetic organs, all of that. They may not even look male or female, who knows, But once they come here into our, like when Jesus was born, the three angels, they were full human people, right? So they can enter and when they do enter here, they're fully functional, right? Watchers can blend the species to create soulless humans who walk among us today, right? The people you talk about, and I used to just laugh at, what was that movie where they were reptilians, right? They pulled their skin off and underneath it. Remember that movie that was on TV? Well, it's the last slide in this presentation, we'll get to that.
I'm sure you've seen
V,
it.
V.
Is that the name
V,
of it?
yeah, my last one.
Only you would watch
V.
that, John.
Oh, that was on TV for a couple of years.
Well, I
V.
believe that.
Yeah. Jacques Vallée, who everybody reveres, right?
Yeah.
It's odd that they revere these people, but they don't really pay attention to what they say. You know?
Right.
Jacques Vallée says alien contact is the equivalent to fallen angels. Whistleblowers and former government sources tell half-truths and are complicit with black projects. Keel said demons can manifest in any form. Demonic possession and alien abduction are the same. I came to that my own conclusion and wrote my book on that. Ultra-terrestrials, right, need living matter to materialize, and they perform cattle mutilations to get the matter. Exactly what you said, right? Jacobs, Mack, Hynek, Lynn Cano, which most people don't know who she is, she worked at the not the Smithsonian, where every record is, and she went all through every record looking for everything on aliens and concluded they were demons, was basically, that's who she is. But Vallée, Keel, they all concluded that alien abduction is a breeding program to create an alternate race, like in the days of Noah. But yet ufologists ignore this, and that is 100% true, Fred. You don't hear at any of the MUFON meetings, you don't hear anybody talking about this stuff. They believe the Von Daniken version, but they don't believe the creationist version of what's going on.
Well, when you go to a MUFON conference, you start saying UFOs are paranormal. They don't believe
Or
that
demons?
either.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, well,
It is paranormal.
the
I
chief
mean,
investigator said
yeah.
about Bigfoot and demons. Where is that
Yeah.
in UFOs?
I mean, if somebody's abducted, you talk to people being abducted, and they say they actually walk through a wall with the alien. If that's not paranormal, ain't nothing damn paranormal.
Right.
Right.
But if, again, you look at, Finding Bigfoot, the TV show, if they found Bigfoot,
Shows
there'll be
off.
no more TV show.
It shows off the air.
So if we find something to do with this, there'll be no more UFOs. So
Oh,
we just
right.
look at it one way and we say, oh my God, here we go. So we look for lights up in the sky and we say, oh, that's them up there, which,
If they find Bigfoot, we've done 30 conferences, we can have those guys come and speak, we'll
Yeah.
have a sellout.
Right.
It'll be conference 31. But in Daniel it says, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of man, but iron is not compatible with clay. In Genesis it says, I will put enmity between you and thy seed and the seed of the woman, which basically is saying that Satan and demons can reproduce between thy seed and the woman. So once they come into this three-dimensional, they're able to reproduce. So I think that actually proves that these hybrids can be real,
the
the Nephilim, and it's going to be just like that somewhere in the future. And I've even seen some prediction stuff that really the end of days is in the year like 2453, something like that. We're about 400 years away,
If
based
you
on
look-
some
if you
calculations
look
and
back-
things that have to happen
Yeah.
first.
You look back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, how many women were abducted and became pregnant, and then all of a sudden they weren't pregnant no more?
The fetus disappears.
Yeah, it disappeared. I mean, and I mean, where did it go? That was them. They took it for breeding purposes. I mean, so here
Either
we
they're
go again.
raising it, or
Yeah.
that was genetic
Yeah.
material that they needed to
Yeah.
reappear. It's really a different version of the stuff we hear at conferences and the UFO books. It really is,
Well, I like the guy when we went out to Vegas last year, when he said that the dinosaurs were eating the kids up there. Remember him?
Yeah.
You said that?
Yeah. He said he was up there at Mars. He went to Mars.
Well, that's the guys who claim that they've been gone 20 years, came back tomorrow, and, whatever.
And he
Okay.
said that the kids are being taken and are fed to the dinosaurs up on Mars.
Is that right? We can find anything on Mars.
You can say anything in this field and get away with it.
I see
That's
that.
the moral of that story.
Yeah.
But, okay, St. Augustine, I did a term
Okay.
paper in 10th grade on predestination and free will, a lot on St. Augustine. He wrote that the Antichrist will be from the mating of humans and demons. That's what St. Augustine
Okay.
said, and you're going back,
Right.
you know, hundreds, 600, 700, 800, I don't know exactly
That
when
was
he lived.
probably a very interesting paper you wrote.
It was.
Because I think about that a lot. But,
That's
you
why I
know,
picked
there-
that topic,
Yeah,
yeah.
there is one scripture verse that Jesus said, no one comes to the Father unless he draws him to himself. So that makes
And then
me
comes
all-
through him, yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think that there could be predestination,
Mm.
even though
It's
we have
pretty
free
clear-
will within that.
Right.
Well, I think if you look at Eve,
Yeah.
and you know what's
So
funny, I
I'm
wrote the term paper, I didn't even look at Adam and Eve, you know? And there was the answer right there. Adam and Eve had free will, but there are all these factors to manipulate you. The devil tricked a very naive Eve, right? She couldn't be street smart, she's only a day old,
Yeah.
you know? And he tricked her. So
Right.
you can be tricked, you can be influenced, but you always have free will. At any time, you can say no to anything, you know? But there are a lot of factors that... So in one sense, you have free will, but there's tremendous pressure, which predetermines some things. And they
Yeah.
send people to you and cause people to do things to you. They can cause somebody to hit you with a car, you know, and change your whole life. And that's all,
Yeah.
Well, the same thing with Adam and Eve.
that's predestined, that part.
Right.
Okay, and God said you shall slither on your stomach from now on.
Right.
Okay, was that actually a reptilian? And they're still here till today.
And the reptilians are demons.
Yeah, and they're
You
here
know?
today. I mean, you know, and they're one of the top dogs with the UFOs.
So there was a guy in 1876 called George Pember, and he named the 7 causes for the flood. And he said that the end times will repeat the days of Noah and the return of the Nephilim. That
Right.
was one of the 7
In
factors.
the end days.
Right, that'll come
Yep.
back again. Alien influence led by a man of great intelligence will create a new gospel, right? They'll bring a new religion. In Daniel it says, he will be a worshiper of a God whom his fathers knew not, meaning an alien God. King Solomon said, what has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again. That's where that nothing new, everything's already, you know. But it'll be, when the aliens show up, it'll be the same as the Nephilim, is
The
what he's
great
basically
apostasy.
saying.
It's all part of the
Yeah.
falling away from God. Only Jesus can return after there's a complete falling away and the Holy Spirit's removed from the
But-
earth.
But if you look at religion today, okay, you have, well, who was the
Things
Pope
coming.
that quit here not too long ago?
Yeah,
Who's that?
2 popes ago. Yeah, not this one, the one before.
Yeah, he quit because he knew what was coming down.
Oh,
This
yeah.
Pope we got now,
Yeah.
he's not a Pope. I mean, if this man ain't evil, he ain't nothing.
Well, this
I
one's
mean,
different, that's for
He's
sure.
You know, and
This
this
one
could
is
be,
different.
this could be what this is all talking about.
Yep.
Maybe.
I mean, he's saying it's good to have sex with kids. I mean, you know, really? And he's a Pope?
There's a lot of strange things with
Yeah.
this guy. But, so here's some quotes from authors about aliens, right? Valet says they're superior, interdimensional, and malevolent.
Right.
So I say, why not save us from COVID-19? Why didn't they show up? If aliens are real, why didn't they show up
Yeah.
with a cure?
Because they never
That's the
bring us
opening they
anything.
needed.
Because COVID-19 ain't nothing but
Man-made.
a damn hoax. I mean,
It
let's
is
face
man-made.
it,
Yeah,
here.
maybe.
It's
That's
man-made,
right, Bill
yeah.
You know.
Gates, he probably made it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Valet says they're here to save us with their technology, raise our consciousness, but talking about demons and Satan is outmoded.
Right.
So you call them aliens. Nobody wants to talk about, like the show, nobody wants to keep saying demons and Satan. They want to be called aliens, and that's accepted. Where
Yeah.
the other terminology
Is
is
not
old
accepted.
and not accepted
Right.
anymore. All they
Yeah.
did is semantics, they changed it, right?
Right.
Satan took the form of a snake with Eve, like he takes the form of an alien now. It's all a trick. So there you go. But nobody quotes Jacques Vallée with that except me. Right? So Gary Bates, right, who started with here, says abductions and UFO craft may only be screen images and false memories planted in the mind. And then he goes into a lot of, you know, MK Ultra and that you can do that with drugs and other
Right,
things and keep showing you repeatedly pictures. It works. UFO researchers do not understand the spiritual nature of abduction, but think UFOs are an unknown technology. UFOs are able to morph and they're filmed because they manipulate matter. They're not real craft. They're just manipulated or planted in your mind.
But the whole thing again, are UFOs from up there? Or if they down, no, we'll get back to another part here.
Well, that's the interdimensional. And what is
So we
it?
get to another thing here, when me and you was talking. If you look at an abduction and you look at a satanic ritual, it's the same thing. I mean, a couple of things are different, but actually it goes to the same thing. You look at over here, it's a ritual, you look at abduction, it's the same thing. So what do you have?
I think they're two ends of the same stick,
Yeah.
two sides of a coin, it's all the same.
Yep, and if it's not a good experience, it must be from the devil.
You know how they say, like now you spin stuff.
Simple.
Yeah.
This is funny, at work I was a security and I never got along with
Right.
the business development people, because I was straightforward in the truth. There was black and white, everything had to be black and white, same thing in police work, right? Then I get with the business development, customer service people, they spun everything. I say, do you ever tell the truth? Like, just tell the truth. Then they gotta spin it, spin it, spin it, that's what this is. It's the same thing being spun over and over and
Right,
over
and
again.
I never hear a good alien experience.
I did, yeah.
Oh,
Have you heard a good one?
Yeah, we
if they're
had,
real, though.
we had a guy, he had cancer of the brain. And he said that he was laying in bed and the aliens was actually messing with him. And he went to push the alien away and he said no, and he talked to the alien, and the alien says, we're here to help you.
Okay.
And he said, what are you talking about? He said, you have cancer of the brain. He says it was through telepathy. He actually was a grave.
Okay.
Talked to him. And 5 days later,
Who's gone?
it was gone.
That's the first good experience I've
Yeah,
had.
there's very
Yeah.
few good ones.
Yeah.
And you
very
heard, you have the lady, this is actually written down, the lady down in Daytona Beach, Volusia County. She was a county commissioner down there. She had stage 4 cancer. She was dying. And she was laying in a bed and she was looking out on the ocean. And she said, what happened? She seen a bright white light out there. And out of the light came little orbs. And they came into her house and they went around the room.
Oh, yeah.
She went to the doctor. 5 days later, she was healed. I mean, that was right. She never made commissioner again or whatever. But
It's
she says
incredible.
it was truth. I mean, you know, so you have cases where aliens actually help people.
Very few. and
But
far
is that
Yeah.
part of the deception,
Right.
that they're there to trick you and do good things
Yeah.
to suck you in?
Well,
You
one of
can't
my
just do
classes-
everything bad, you have to suck people in.
There's, yeah, there's a few good things in there.
One
A
of
little
them,
bit of truth.
one of the classes I'm teaching now, a little plug here, out at Greensburg, out at Westmoreland County Community College
Yeah.
this summer is, are aliens friends or foes? And I
Right.
get into that whole
That's good,
thing with there, so.
Brad, yeah.
So Gary Bates goes on to say, church is where questions should be asked about UFOs,
Right.
aliens, all of that stuff. But church will not allow UFO talk. So we seek out UFO experts, ufologists, who reinforce the belief of benevolent ETs from space. And that's the problem. I went to the church over here and they do the Origins TV series. And I said, let's do an episode on alien abduction. His jaw dropped and he took a step back. You talk about body language?
Yeah.
Once I brought up aliens, because in his mind it's demonic, but why not talk about it? He didn't want to talk about it, you know? You cannot get church people to go public about this stuff, that aliens are demons, let's say, and the abduction is it's a demonic abduction, not an alien abduction, right? So Valet says the phenomenon morphs to the culture involved and the time period. If you think about when you go back in time, it's flying shields, airships, balloons before you had big hot air balloons, red aliens in India, because their gods are red. Grays are only in the United States. You don't have gray aliens in other countries. That's a US thing.
Okay.
And you think about MUFON, 176 different type of crafts they describe.
Yeah.
How can you have so many different craft? I mean, you got some fighter jets on an aircraft carrier, right? But you don't have 176 different ones. They're able to morph because they're interdimensional.
Well,
So
you see-
Keel says UFO researchers can't comprehend and don't realize it's spiritual in nature. But everybody ignores that, Fred.
No.
Everyone ignores that. I want to
because
talk about
they
your
want
buddy
to,
next.
But they want to.
Yeah, let's talk about your buddy here.
Mm.
This is important too. That's mentioned in here by Gary Bates, because Bates made the movie with Joe Jordan,
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
So he brings up Joe Jordan, MUFON State Section Director in Florida, friend of yours when you were in Florida,
Yeah.
right? Hundreds of cases, he discovered hundreds of cases where the person called upon Jesus to stop an alien abduction.
Right.
It's the same exact thing used in exorcisms of homes, objects, and peoples. The name of Jesus drives them away. It's well documented, and it's as exorcism is as well documented as UFO cases, right? Oh, here's a possible and this is why I thought of with the COVID-19, right? You have an incurable virus. UFOs show up and cure it. They tell us a different story of their evolution, that there's no God, or they have a different type of God. They're here to help us and save the planet. They're gonna, remember, like during COVID-19, the air cleared up, all of that, so they said, which I saw a report, Pennsylvania didn't get any better, right? So, but they do that all for us, right? They say, we have superior technology, we'll give this something to you. I say at least 80% of people follow them. That's a perfect opportunity how to trick everybody. And that was actually in Arthur C. Clarke's book, Childhood's End. Did you ever read that book or see the movie? Yeah, you know, that I never heard of it. And then the movie came out, it was on like Sci-Fi Channel. What a great story. It's how we're tricked by aliens and they're really demons on the craft, you know?
Right.
So let's get into giants now. This book covered everything, 16 chapters. It answered all my questions from that perspective that I didn't know.
Too much because I know nothing about giants.
Well, we can get, David Paulides just did a book on giants now, right? So, get this, the Israelites, when they were with Moses, and what happened was they wouldn't follow him to the promised land because they get to the pass and there's giants there and they said, we're not going. But God said, go through them. He got 40,000 people, whatever it was, when he took them out of Egypt. 40,000 against 20. I'm not doing it. So what happened was they disobeyed God, and then he had them wander for 40 years because they didn't go to the promised land. But they saw giants. Giants were demigods, the children of those 200 watchers, the Nephilim. They were giants. They saw these 12-foot people as high as that ceiling standing there weighing 600 pounds. They said, we're not going. So Goliath in the story was 10 feet tall, right? David and Goliath. He was the shortest of his 4 brothers. And I say that this is all prior to the birth of Jesus. And I put this in my last book, just thinking it myself without reading it. Prior to the birth of Jesus, all of this demigod, interbreeding, hybrids, giants, cyclops, that was all real stuff. And those Egyptian gods, half human, half bird heads and stuff, that was all real. That was all demonic stuff and real. That's not somebody's imagination or sci-fi story. Because I don't think back then they wrote science fiction. I think they wrote what they saw. That's what I've been told in reading, is that those old writings, they write what they saw until maybe the 1700s they started with Gothic horror and stuff, you know. So now we get into remote viewing. But now they're talking, towards the end of the book, they're talking about remote viewing, right? In Macbeth, they say, to cause us harm, the darkness tells us truths. They cure a few people to suck you in. Now they got you, right? 2% of people have the ability to be a clairvoyant. They can actually see objects somewhere else or see events. I mean, I knew we were going to get in a car accident with my newly born, firstborn grandson. I had an overwhelming feeling he was going to get hurt, we were going to get hit in the car. I should have said something.
And acted.
I thought they'd think I was crazy. We get in the car, boom, T-boned. Everybody was fine because the angel, I should have said something so the angel protected him. They said 2% of people can actually see an event before it happens, which says something about time, you know. They said remote viewing, you can control that, like the government, right? MK Ultra, it was a weapon that they used, right? But out-of-body experiences, when you have an out-of-body, you can't control that. That's uncontrollable. It's not something you can do. You can cause it, but then you can't control what happens once you leave your body. When your soul leaves your body, it's uncontrollable. They said the Navy was the first one. Remember how we said that it's the Navy and not the Air Force? The Air Force and NASA is the public view. The NSA and the Navy are the private view of what really happens, right? The Navy was the first one funded on remote viewing in 1947. Then the Army in 49 and the CIA in 1950 with Project Bluebird. Now get this, we've talked about this, right? The father of remote viewing in the 70s was Hal Puthoff, familiar name, right? With Ingo Swann, Joe McMoneagle, the Mossad's Uri Geller, and Edgar Mitchell's Noetic Sciences. Edgar Mitchell, we all quote Edgar Mitchell with UFOs, the astronaut, right? But he was all into this, right? Edgar Mitchell handled the San Francisco Bay Area mind control research and employed Jack Sarfatti. His name came up recently, right, with the Academy to the Stars. So Sarfati says we can travel to the stars via consciousness, not physically, consciousness. Like in that other dimension, you can travel, right? And these are all the same people involved with Bigelow, right? With NIDS. And every time Bigelow comes, every time one of this stuff comes up, Skinwalker Ranch, MUFON, funding us, it's Bigelow. And then you got that guy, Ray Hernandez from the Free Organization, and he used Edgar Mitchell's name. So in history, you have Hindu scripture that says there's unwanted paranormal side effects of meditation. Shaman witch doctors use drugs. The CIA in '53, MK Ultra used drugs. Army Operation Orphan from '68 to '73, where they were looking at the paranormal, right? And what they called it was the name Grill Flame. Anytime they used Grill Flame, it was an umbrella name for everything that was psychic. That was I never heard any of that. That was the name they used. If they were John Alexander, Colonel Alexander, all involved in that, right? Now here's something that you'll like that I didn't know about either, right? 1952, when the CIA was formed, right? And you had the famous UFO cases, right? There was a group called the Round Table. Did you ever hear of that in Maine? I never heard of it. So they contacted, there were psychics, mediums, all that. They contacted a group that they thought were aliens, and they called it the Nine, right? They thought they were aliens who told them that we were created 34,000 years ago. They created Atlantis, the pyramids, all the ancient sites, Baalbek, all of those. Then the experiments with the Nine turned paranormal, just like the skull experiment that we talked about, right? In 1972, Uri Geller said that they're just playing with us. In 1974, Gene Roddenberry gets involved in this group, right? And who was Roddenberry's wife? Do you remember?
Nurse in the show. Nurse.
The one in the show,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. What was her last name? I can't remember now. Nurse what?
Chapel.
Chapel.
Chapel. Yeah, that's what it
Nurse
was.
Chapel
Yeah.
became Roddenberry's wife, and she was the one, the nurse in the show. But she was into the paranormal. Roddenberry was into the paranormal. Ray Bradbury gets involved in this group, the Round Table. Ray Bradbury, when he was younger, was involved with Aleister Crowley with those demonic, calling upon demons. It's amazing how these people all get tied in with demons in the sci-fi field, right?
Right.
The Round Table says life came here from Mars 34,000 years ago. They're here to guide us. The problem with remote viewing is a lot of these people suffer nervous breakdowns, a lot of stress, a lot of early deaths. And the question really is, who are these spiritual beings, and are they deceiving us? The fourth dimension is the spirit world, Valhalla, heaven, the netherworld. Four-dimensional creatures can manifest in our dimension, fully functional. Spirits behind secret society. There are spirits behind secret societies like the Bilderbergers, the Bohemian Grove, the Illuminati. There's wickedness in high places. When you talk about Pizzagate, the Clinton deaths, anybody who crosses them seems to die. And the devil's greatest strength is to convince the world he doesn't exist, which is why we don't talk about demons and Satan, we talk about aliens now, because they want you to believe it's two different things. So and we're at the end here, my conclusion, what I said is that everything that ever was or will be are either angels or shape-shifting fallen angels, which are demons. And I tell you, Fred, and you know, because this started with me in 2014, where something showed up, and that's where I met you, because I was supposed to get some knowledge from you that I didn't have. It's been a long road for me, where end time prophecy, my first books, into UFOs, into an encounter, into the demonic, into demonology, then back to being, I consider myself a reborn Christian. I made this huge circle to figure this out. And there's the picture from V, the girl that was really a reptilian underneath. So that's a long episode, Fred. I put all of that in my book, The Straight Theory of the Unexplained, without having read this stuff. I wish I had read this stuff, but I came to the same conclusions myself. I said it differently, but I came to the same conclusions in my book. And I think this is episode 90, Fred. So there we go. And this could be it for a while. I have no new ideas. So thanks for the show. It was a long one, and thank you.